your girls, grab your beers.
Hey everybody, this is Charlie from Anthrax, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time. Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now here's your host.
I am Monty Heath, so one Heath, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
Hey, what's up? It's John from Skillet, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle on Domain Cleveland Radio.
Fasten your seatbelts.
Incarceration Music and Tattoo Festival is back July 14th through 16th at Ohio State Reformatory with Slipknot, Limp Bizkit, Pantera, plus Full Beat, Megadeth, Lamb of God, In This Moment, Highly Suspect, and more. Hurry and get passes now at incarceration.com. Incarceration.
So come and get it, get it.
Instructed to stay outside.
Good. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Bill Bailey with today's Boondoggle. And real quick housekeeping note, if you're watching us on YouTube or Rumble or BitChute or Odyssey, please hit that follow and subscribe button. And if you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple, Google, any of those podcast platforms, please hit that follow and subscribe button so we can continue to bring you the conversations like the one I'm about to bring you today, talking with retired Chief Petty Officer Joe Lynn Pike, my shipmate. How you doing?
Great. Retirement is lovely.
It is. It is. I agree. You know, I find other hobbies like this podcast to keep me active, you know. But yeah, we'll get into all that with what you've been, what you're currently up to and stuff. But usually when I have people on the first time, I like to get the background. So, where did you grow up at?
I grew up here in Harrodsburg, Kentucky.
And do you remember originally as a little girl what you originally wanted to be when you grew up?
Rich. I really don't remember what I aspired to be other than, I don't know. I don't remember. Probably nothing.
Yeah. Well, I figure, you know, maybe like a princess or, you know, all that stuff that, you know.
No, I don't remember anything like that. But, and I certainly never dreamed I would ever join the Navy. That was never a thought in my mind until my mother sent that recruiter to my house, and he woke me up from my nap. And of course I opened the door and there's a really tall fella standing there in a dark uniform, kind of intimidating looking actually. And he said, "Your mother sent me to see you." Okay.
So it wasn't like a, you know, like there was no calling originally for you that you wanted to serve. It just kind of came knocking at your door.
Literally. So, okay, come on in and we'll talk about it. And the next day we went to Louisville. I did the medical, the testing, anything I needed to do to get in. Exactly 7 days after the day I met him, I was in Orlando, Florida, starting boot camp.
Oh, wow. No time wasted, huh?
Shoot, no. I was afraid I'd get in trouble that week, so I just wanted to get there quick.
So, yeah, so then, you know, it kind of came knocking at your door, kind of motivating to get you to serve. But as boot camp, as you went through the boot camp process, like, you know, what changes did you start noticing? And like, what was some of the oddest things that you may have witnessed or experienced during your time in?
Well, had to learn how to eat really fast. I was at the end of the line every time we went to the chow hall. So the 20 minutes would start, I believe, when the first person walked through the door. So me being at the end of the line, I might have got 10 minutes or something like that to eat. So I started learning how to eat really fast. So that didn't work out very well for me because that caused me to gain a bunch of weight in boot camp, believe it or not.
Yeah, I
And
remember picking that habit up myself, and then it's hard to like shut it down all these years later.
yeah. So my company commander said, she actually noticed it and said, I need to put you on the pudge squad. So she talked me into trying out for the flag team that we had there in Orlando. But in order to be on that flag team, you had to pass the 8-week physical fitness test that week.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That was the hardest thing I ever did. And I couldn't walk for days after that. I'd never run or done sit-ups or push-ups or any of those physical activities, a little bit here and there in school, but not like that.
No.
It was on after that. I stayed active like that after that. That pain was almost unbearable.
Yeah, and then you realize, like, okay, well, I actually got to do this regularly, so I don't feel that pain anymore. It's that first transitioning, like that crushing the piece of coal and making the diamond,
Yeah, it definitely became a very important part of my life after that.
Yeah, for sure. And then after boot camp, where was your first duty station?
Well, I had a stopover in Millington, Tennessee for a little bit of training, and then I ended up in Pensacola, Florida. I worked for a squadron there right next to the Blue Angels, and VT-86 Saberhawks was the name of our squadron.
Oh, nice. And then, so were you rated out of boot camp then?
No, I had to work for it.
Okay.
Well, when I first got to Pensacola, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So I did a little work in corrosion control, thinking I would be a structural mechanic. Those chemicals didn't work well with me, so then I started going to the weather station to try to be can't remember what that rating was called now, but I was going to go that route. And eventually I ended up in admin. So that's how I became a yeoman.
Nice.
Yay
And
for
then,
me.
yeah, and then you sent me a lot of really cool bullet points, but about your career. But what would you say is like during your whole experience in the Navy, coming from the civilian world, like what are some of the oddest things you may have witnessed or experienced?
Well, I can give you a lot of examples from when I was stationed in the Philippines. I probably ought to leave that out. Not me, but the Philippines was a great duty station for me, and my first time overseas anywhere. It was kind of terrifying at first, but once I got settled in, it was great, and I learned that some things about some of the interesting food they would eat over there, like dogs and monkeys and lizards and things like that. So I had to really be careful with any of the vendors out on the street, make sure they were selling something legit. And we had a list of places that we were okay to go to.
Yeah.
And then I had to live out in town for almost a year while I waited on the list for base housing. Now that was interesting because the electricity would go out every day during the afternoon. So you couldn't store food in your refrigerator. You had to go to the grocery store literally every day. And if you wanted milk or anything cold, it would come on in the evenings, but not very good. It would be like a brownout in the evening most of the time. The electricity wasn't great over there, but eventually I ended up on base, and that was nice. And base housing there was incredible. It was beautiful.
kind of makes you appreciate what we take for granted over here, you know?
It really did. But fortunately for me, the everything over there was super cheap. So I had a live-in maid, and they hand washed all the laundry for me because there were no washers and dryers except on base. And it was either lug your stuff on base every time you wanted to do laundry, or just pay somebody $5 a week to do it for you. I took that option.
Now, what caught my eye about, when you mentioned serving over in the Philippines, first, what duty station were you a part of, and what was your job over there?
Subic Bay. I was stationed at Naval Station Subic Bay, and my job there was I was the captain's massed yeoman, and I worked in the discipline department. We took care of all the court martials and NJPs and administrative separations, legal holds. Everything to do with discipline was taken care of in the office where I worked.
Gotcha. And then, you had mentioned in what you sent me too that you were down, there stationed there during a very interesting time in history.
Yeah.
You want to share a little bit about that?
I was stationed there at the time when Ferdinand and Imelda Marcos got kicked out of the country. Boom, gone. A female by the name of Corazon Aquino took over as president, and that was, I don't think very many of them liked the idea of have a woman president, but they got over it, I think. And I was there at the time. Later on, another year after that, they had a strike. Civilian workers on the base went on strike, and the gates were shut down for 2 weeks. They wisely, on their behalf, they started that strike on Friday afternoon, because by that time, anybody was out for their weekend liberty was off the base. So when they went on strike Friday night, everybody that was off base for 2 weeks. They ran out of money. They had no way to buy food or get a hotel or get back on the base. It was pretty bad for a lot of people for a couple of weeks, because you're stranded for 2 weeks in a foreign country, literally. And fortunately for me, that was my duty weekend, so I was on the base. So there was only a third of the people. They estimated only a third of the military was on the base at that time.
And what was the reasoning behind the strike?
Well, for pay and benefits and things like that. And then there were the ladies of the night out in town that were getting a little irritated with that because it was interfering with their business. So they
didn't have any money.
I wasn't out there to see it, but I heard a lot of people talking about they had their own little strike going on during that time.
Wow. And then, where we ended up connecting, so that was one of your, major duty stations overseas. And then you came home, and then you did take a little bit break from the military.
A little break. Well, after the Philippines, I was in Kingsville, Texas for almost 3 years. Then I got out of the Navy. A 14-and-a-half-year break in service. I went back in the Navy in 2004 as a reservist and did 10 more years and was able to get my retirement.
So how much time did you have before you took that 14-year break?
10 years and 23 days.
And then you took that break. You were I believe you said you were a second class.
When I got out, I was a second class. Now, at that time, as a yeoman, making first class was pretty much impossible.
Yeah.
We literally looked at the obituaries. We did. We were, okay, well, there's another one. So now there's an opening. But everything was really super tight as far as advancement then. But 14 and a half years later, when I went back into the reserves, I went back in as a YN3, which is E4, and I actually moved up in rank fairly quickly as a reservist.
Yeah, that was incredible. So when we met, we were in Kuwait at Camp Arifjan. We got deployed with the same group, like we were just talking before we went on air. We just had our little reunion about a month or so ago, and but you made first class there, or you were first class when we got there?
Well, I did a deployment to Kuwait in 06, 2 years before that. I made second class on that deployment. On the first deployment. On the second deployment with you guys is when I made first class 2 years later. And I made chief in 2012.
Okay. Yeah, that's when I retired, was 2012. So I ended up making first on the same one that you did then when we were in AJ. But yeah, so you know, for somebody that, you know, kind of like got strong-armed into joining the military, you did make the best out of it. And, you know, I mean, there's like myself, I wasn't able to make chief. I mean, the option was there, but my circumstances were different when I came home and became a single dad. I kind of had to choose, like, you know, re-enlist, make chief and deploy again, or, you know, stay home and be a dad, you know, and I chose that option. But yeah, 2012 is when I retired. But yeah, a lot of people don't, you know, that's quite a career to make chief. That's you know, good way to end it for somebody that, you know, originally had to knock on the door. So what would you say during your time in, like, you know, what kind of changed from your perspective on service to country and all that?
Well, as a teenager, if I hadn't joined the Navy, I was absolutely starting to head down that path of destruction. And that's the reason my mother sent that recruiter to see me. So that changed my life for the better by far. I was able to get a career, get disciplined, get physically fit. And I would like to say I got a little smarter too. But I would tell you that the first time I was in the military versus the second time I was in the military, things had changed so much as far as the respect and the attitude. You know, when I was in the Navy the first time, people were respectful. They had manners. The chain of command was important, and there was no back talk. On that second go around, there was a lot of crybabies, a lot of whining. I don't want to go here. I don't want to go there, and a lot of cursing and disrespect. So, unfortunately, those things had changed quite a bit. But I mean, not everybody was like that, but there were some. Yeah. But fortunately for me, I worked in an area where I had a lot of great people around me, and
yeah, I saw that change happening too, you know, and like that's why it was like another reason why I was like, yeah, it's time to go. You know, when we're not doing the hands-on training, you know, and everything's behind a computer, how are you really ready for any kind of, like, you know, combat type situation, you know?
Right. Yeah. I spent a lot of time at a computer while I was deployed.
And I seen when, you know, it seemed like after 9/11, they were just trying to fill up, you know, numbers. They didn't care about the quality of people they were bringing in, it seemed like, during that time.
Yeah. And I guess they're even more desperate now than they were then.
Yeah. So it's sad, but I mean, I you know, I know I can look back though with, you know, similar like you know, it's like, I know if I wouldn't have went in, I was headed down a, you know, not a good path. And even when I was in, I managed to bunk a bunch of stuff up too, you know, at some points, but I'm grateful
if
for
you'd been in the Philippines when I was, then we probably would have met.
Yeah, probably. But then, like looking back, like what would you say is some of the without breaking like OPSEC, where would you say is like one of the worst places you served?
I don't. Gosh, that's a hard one. Uh, well, I would have to say that the worst places I've ever been to was actually during my annual training, my 2 weeks. I spent 2 weeks in Mozambique, and that was pretty awful, scary for me. But uh, there was an incident that occurred while I was on that annual training that was pretty scary. Three of us from my reserve unit went over there to make arrangements for there was a Navy ship that was going to pull into that port there. Only the second time in history there was ever a ship there. So we had to set up the logistics and, find them places to fuel up, order some food, that kind of thing. And then when they pulled in, they came off the ship and we did a lot of community service. We went to a little girl's orphanage. We went to a school to plant trees. And some of the sailors on the ship had a soccer game again with some of the local guys. And but one night while those guys were on the ship, they wanted to take a van to where the hotel was where I was staying because the Wi-Fi was really good there. On their way from the ship to the hotel, they got robbed at gunpoint.
Mm.
And it turns out those fellas that robbed them were actually police officers.
Oh, wow.
So after that, the rest of that annual training, everybody was basically restricted to their quarters. And that's how that one went. And that little girl's orphanage was probably the saddest thing I ever saw in my life. It was heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
And knowing the kind of future those girls were going to have eventually when they got too old to be there, just I don't even think about that.
Yeah.
But
So,
that was probably, I mean, it was had its good things about it too, but overall, I think for me that was the worst place I've ever been as far as feeling secure and safe and all that kind of stuff. I felt had more fear there than I ever had anywhere in the Middle East.
yeah.
I was in Kuwait twice, and I was in the United Arab Emirates for several months in 2009 with a boat unit. And the only time I was ever scared for my life was during that 2 weeks in Mozambique.
Gotcha. And then where would you say was one of your favorite places you got to serve?
I actually loved the Philippines an awful lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a beautiful place. Right there at the front gate was, bars and restaurants and ladies of the night just all over the place. But once you got away from that, it was beautiful there. Tropical, the food. I mean, everything was really, and that was the nicest base I've ever been. And it's unfortunate that it's not there anymore. It was really a nice base. In 91, that base was closed because of the volcano that erupted in, I don't remember what year that was. I wasn't there at the time. I'm thinking it was 1991, but I think that's what it was.
Gotcha.
All the bases closed over there because of the volcano.
And then, so, throughout your time there, like you said, you got to retire Chief Petty Officer, learned quite a bit about yourself, from the beginning through that whole process, and learned a lot about, what we have here I guess, what we can appreciate, what people take for granted, the things that we really have here that we can appreciate. But what is like one pet peeve you have today with like civilians since transitioning out of the military?
Well, I live in a small town, so everything you do here, everybody knows it. That kind of irritates me a little bit, but I mean it's a good little town, and I don't know. That's my pet peeve for here in my hometown, I guess. But other than that, it's great being here, and I don't know. I think the worst thing about these days, obviously, are the whole politics, and I don't like for that conversation to happen in my house or anywhere around me. It's too stressful.
Yeah, too much division. When we're not looking at what we have in common and what we should appreciate of what brings us together.
Yeah.
And then, what is something that you always carry with you from your time of service?
Pride. I think that I'm very proud of what I've done, what I've accomplished, the career I was able to get because of the Navy. Um, that career helped me to get a really good civilian career as well, and which is at the police department here in my hometown. I was the records maintenance person for the police department here in Harrodsburg for 28 years. And this is, come to think of it, there's a really big pet peeve with that as well, and that's the way people treat police officers. And I am there every day, or was until I retired, and I see what they dealt with. I knew what they dealt with, and people hear parts of the story. They don't know the whole story, and they like to make judgments.
Yeah, or the media, rushes them to a judgment without even being there.
Yeah, it's a great police department with some great officers that work there, and obviously now the with everything that's going on in the world, hiring somebody, a good quality officer these days is next to impossible because basically nobody wants to be a police officer much anymore.
No, and that was like, that used to be like when I would talk to people, when I asked that question earlier, what do you want to be when you grew up? Or originally, what do you want to be? And a lot of them, policemen, firefighters, stuff like that. And, it seems like those dreams are few and far between because of the stigma that has been cast upon.
Yeah. When I started at the police department in 1993, anytime we would hire officers, there would be first thing would be a written test. And we had to rent a place in town to have that written test because there would be so many that would show up, we would run out of seats. Well, at the time that I retired, anytime we had a written test, I don't know, there might be 7 or 8, maybe. Or in some cases, one would show up to show interest, and we would just make an appointment for him to come there and sit in the office and take his test. The interest is not like it used to be. No. Same with the fire department.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad. Our first responders and our military seem to be,
struggling to get people, to get good people.
Good people. Yeah, exactly. Now, on a cheerier note, can you recall, like, what's one of the funniest stories that you feel you can share from your time in service?
Oh, God. Get down, Duke. My dog is going to start barking here any minute now. Well, when I was in 2009, when I was getting ready for my deployment with the boat unit, I had to go to Camp Pendleton to qualify on firearms. And we were training on the 9mm, and they had us spread out, in a row, how they do, and we're all shooting at the same time. Well, the guy that was next to me, one of his shells ended up going down in my shirt. So I was,
And those are hot.
yeah. So I bent forward so that casing would be next to my shirt and not my skin. And the firearms instructor comes running up to me, waving his arms. And God, you couldn't get away with this now for anything. But he kept saying, "Don't burn the puppies! Don't burn the puppies!" Oh my gosh, I could not believe he was saying that. It was funny, but it was very inappropriate at the same time. That's the first thing that comes to mind, I guess, when you asked me for a funny story was that.
Yeah. And like you said, we couldn't get away with that kind of stuff today, but that was just our military humor back then, you know?
Yeah, well.
We were a little thicker skinned, even with hot casings on against us.
Oh, God, that could have been pretty bad, but
Yeah.
my last shot on that qualification, I always would score expert, but that last shot on that went into the bottom of the paper because I had to bend forward to keep that shell casing from getting on my skin. So my last round went to the bottom of the paper. But I kept pointing my weapon downrange just like I was supposed to.
Yeah. Safety was still, paramount.
Yeah.
Now, we kind of briefly touched about, the conditions or what's going on in our country today. But what is one of your greatest hopes for the country that you've been willing to give your life for?
For everyone to be kind to each other and stop all this horrible, you can make a mountain out of a molehill now and over the least little thing. And people just need to get over themselves and learn to live and leave each other alone. Be kind to everybody.
Amen. And then, we talked a little bit about, even with like the police and why, what the police deal with today. And, we know what our military has dealt with and, the troubles with getting people to sign up or want to, volunteer for something like that, or just have that sense of duty anymore. But, we know like the struggles that all of them face. What do you think we can do about to break the stigma of mental health and PTSD?
Just more awareness of how people behave around you and how their changes in their personality could be a clue as to something going wrong with them in their life. Just pay attention.
Yeah, maybe talk about it more,
Exactly.
Make it so it's not like a dirty, shameful secret or something. We all have struggles,
And if you need help, get it. That's the thing.
Yeah. Amen.
It doesn't make you less of a person if you get help. It really doesn't.
I've been having that conversation with someone close to me recently too. It's just like, I just saw my therapist yesterday. I see a therapist regularly, and it's just like, it's helped me tremendously. Doing this podcast has helped me with my anxiety and my struggles, just to get me out of myself,
Right.
and talking with others, and just, serving, helping still, even retired. Like, you're retired now from the Navy. You said you're also retired from the police force, and you stay pretty active though with volunteer work and stuff. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I do. After I retired from the police department, my son tells me, comes over to my house to quote some statistics to me about people who retire. And he said, Mom, you've got to find some activities or hobbies or something like that, because statistics show that when you retire and become inactive, you'll probably die sooner. And he's pretty blunt.
Yeah.
So, well, there was really no problem with that because, as soon as I retired, and I always said I was going to do this, and I did, I started volunteering at what's called a Christian Life Center. It's a thrift store and a food pantry, and similar to a Goodwill, but the difference is we literally help people that walk in and ask for it. Volunteer there every week. For several years, I've had a Relay for Life team, so I do a lot of fundraising for the American Cancer Society and do pretty well at that. COVID really put a hurt on it, but we're bouncing back. And I do a lot for the VFW here in Harrodsburg. We've had some fundraisers. I personally helped them raise somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000. I don't know the exact number, and we didn't start keeping track of it till a few months after I started. But we were taking donations of anything anybody wanted to clear out of their home. They were bringing it to me, and I was posting everything on Facebook on a yard sale page and trying to sell all these things to help the VFW raise money. And that went from posting things on there to starting to do live auctions. And in 2 or 3 hours, I could sell enough stuff to raise anywhere from $300 to $500 each week. And eventually, we were able to get all the repairs we needed in our building. And then after I hit a certain goal, then I basically said, okay, I'm done. The rest of you guys can start having your own fundraisers.
Yeah. Now, speaking of that, because I believe you had mentioned too that you're a life member of the VFW.
Yeah.
And
life member.
Yeah, as am I here at the one by me in Cleveland. But I've noticed there seems to be, people need to realize, especially the younger generation, the importance of like the VFW and the American Legions and what they do for veterans. And, I notice, it's more the old timers and the, like just getting people to sign up today. The younger crowd isn't signing up. And, just realizing the importance of, what, you don't have to like dedicate all your time and run volunteer things like you do, but just be a member, sign up, pay monthly dues or whatever, because every little bit helps to keep it afloat. We need it, because if we have nobody advocating for us, then when you need it, there's not going to be anybody there. And it seems like the younger generation isn't getting that. It's not just hanging out at the bar for cheap drinks and telling war stories. There's so much more to, being a member of the VFW or the American Legion. And maybe you can add to that.
Yeah, that's the perception a lot of the younger people have about the VFW. They think it's just a bunch of old men sitting around a bar drinking beer and smoking, because that's what our grandfathers did.
Yeah.
And our fathers, they did that. And all the World War II guys are the ones that started all these VFWs. They started the one in my hometown. They started it in 1946. And my grandfather was one of the first original members of our VFW post here. And that's exactly what they did. And years later, we almost had to shut the doors at one point because maybe 3 people would show up to our meetings. But we worked hard. We got the building back in shape, and we became a member of the Chamber of Commerce here. So they've been very helpful as far as getting the word out to other new people that move here, that there is a VFW here in Harrodsburg. So our membership is picking up, but still, it's the older veteran. We don't have any young veterans there at all. We have Vietnam, Korean, maybe a couple of Korean War veterans, at least one World War II veteran that's still hanging in there, even though we don't see him anymore. But the military people from the most recent campaigns they're just not interested in joining the VFW, and because of that stigma.
Yeah. Like
But we are,
I got sober after our deployment to Kuwait, and I got 14 years sober now. So I'm like, well, what do I, originally I was kind of like one of those guys when I first got sober. I'm like, I had my neighbors talking to me, some Vietnam vets, hey, you should join our post. And I'm like, I don't drink, well, it's not just hanging out and drinking. And they convinced me. I went up. I'm glad I did. I ended up joining the post. I still like to eat, and they have, like, especially like Army, Navy, game. There's a big spread up there, and we all go on there and just like bust each other's chops, and there's all kinds of events that I can participate in. I don't have to be up there drinking, and I can still like do the puppies and all that stuff. And
oh yeah,
and one post where in the city where I grew up at, I liked what they did. And because they have a younger crowd there, but I if any other VFW posts are listening, this might be a good business model to recruit the younger ones. They ended up hiring bartenders outside of the post, younger ladies, and the old guys really appreciate looking at that, and so do the young guys. So, I mean, if you are a drinker, sure, if you're getting your drink served, it helps.
yeah. Well, our VFW, we don't have a canteen or a bar. There is a bar in the building from years gone by, but it's been inactive for a long time. We don't have a liquor license or gambling license or anything like that. But we're trying to get back to where we can at least have something at least 1 or 2 nights a week.
Yeah.
Open it up a couple of nights a week, maybe do a BYOB kind of deal or something like that. But and maybe do a poker run or something like that. But we are actually in the process of joining up with our local American Legion post because they have the same kind of issues that we have. So they're having issues getting members for that as well. And some of us are going to set a booth up at a local festival here next month and have a membership drive. So hopefully we'll be able to get some more members and talk to some veterans maybe that are passing by our booth and try to get some interest that way.
Gotcha.
If we could get one youngster in our VFW post, then I feel like more would follow.
Oh yeah. Get one that, and he'll spread the word,
Yeah, and we know that the younger veterans, they're more about the cell phones and the TV, video games and things like that. So we're going to try to get a big screen TV or 2, get Wi-Fi there so they can come there and do computer games or
make it like a USO lounge almost,
something like that. Yeah. But we're trying to get it where it's going to be a place that any veteran would want to go.
Yeah.
Not just a VFW member.
I'm not just I'm not as active, I'm not, there all the time myself either, but, I'm a life member. I paid my, the dues, and when I can, I help out, and I encourage all veterans out there, just sign up, I belong, I pay my Legion fees every year. And I hardly go to the Legion either. Occasionally, like, I had my daughter's graduation party there, couple of years back. And then I just went there for the 4th of July because where our Legion post is stationed, that it's stationed on a lake that's the lake where the city has the fireworks. So on the other side of the lake is where all like the civilians and the festival rides and all that stuff go on, and where and I get to go to my Legion and just hang out in the parking lot, and they grill burgers and watch the fireworks, with the vets, and that's probably the only, one of the few times a year I go, but I keep my dues paid just just for that, to help out, and I encourage the young veterans to stay involved. I get the magazines sent at the house. I hardly read them, but
Yeah, we have a lot of veterans that are at our post that have some connections to people at the VA and can offer advice or send somebody, give them a phone number or anything they need, if they're
yeah,
having a hard time signing up for benefits or anything like that. We do have some people there that can help with
yeah,
that.
processing claims and all
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
And we definitely have people there, just need somebody to talk to. And, if we have a veteran that's under the weather for whatever reason, then another veteran will go there and mow their yard or, take out their trash or anything like that. Veterans
yeah,
helping veterans.
yep. And that's what it's about. So hopefully, any of the younger guys out there listening that have served, man, I highly encourage. It's not like a huge time commitment, but pay your dues, stay connected, because you never know, when you'll be that veteran,
Right.
But one of the other reasons why I wanted to have you on is you shared with us is not just your volunteer service and your Navy career, but looks like you're still looking to serve in a big way there in your city, running for mayor. You want to share about what helped you decide you wanted to do that, and
Well, in the first 3 weeks in this new term with our most recent elected mayor, he resigned 3 weeks into the year because he moved into the county. Then so far this year, we've had 6 temporary mayors. And now there's going to be a special election this year in November. So 3 of us have actually filed to run for that office. And the reason I started it to begin with was because I was determined to find a way to help the police and firemen, with their benefits and try to get them back on the hazardous duty retirement, which they haven't had for years here. But fortunately, the most recent mayor we had was able to make that happen. But the community itself, I just love this little town. I just want to see it grow, and it needs help. There's a lot of issues here in our hometown, and it needs help. And somebody has to be willing to do the research, do the legwork, make the phone calls, and try to get those grants and things that we need to get our sidewalks and roads fixed, houses. Some of the elderly people have houses that are near they just look like they're going to fall down any minute now. And there are grants and things like that can help these people. And we just need to have a mayor here that's going to stay around for a while.
Yeah, what do you think the reason is that the last one left so soon?
Because he got a job offer that paid more than the mayor's salary. So can't blame him for that.
Yeah.
So each time we have one resign, then one of the commissioners takes over for as interim mayor until they can appoint somebody. So they recently appointed someone else, and this new appointee makes number 6 that we've had this year.
But you're in it for the long haul. You're in it
Definitely.
To help your community, and you were born there, raised there, and you want to retire there again.
And I've proven to myself and everybody else that when I commit myself to something, I see it through. 28 years at the police department, and eventually was able to finish the 20 years I needed to get the retirement in the Navy. So, when I make my mind up to do something, I do it well.
Yeah. And you've already proven your volunteer work within the community, helping, the veterans community and the first responder community, and your concerns for the older citizens there. You
There's
know?
no activities for our youth here. There's nothing. And even if the youth here want to play sports, it's gotten so expensive to participate in baseball or football or anything, or even the band. It's outrageous. And they do these fundraisers here and there, but if you want to buy a bag of popcorn for $20 to help them with their fundraiser, that's just really hard for them to get people
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll give you the city that I currently live in. Our mayor is Navy, former CB. I had actually served with him, and helped with his campaign and stuff. And it's just somebody that he knows what service to country and community is all about. And we've seen a lot of positive changes here in the community since he's been mayor. In fact, this weekend we're having our annual Home Days festival. So I'll be hanging out with him and many of my community members at the the festival tonight, and then the fireworks are we'll have our annual fireworks tomorrow night and stuff, and it's usually a good event. But I've seen a lot of positive changes for the little things that previous administrations would ignore, like the eyesores of getting off the highway and there's a rundown hotel that was up to no good, and we removed that. There's a lot of the cosmetic changes that makes it more appealing for businesses to want to be a part of your community and help it thrive,
Right.
and people to want to move there and raise their families there and stuff. So, definitely good luck with your campaign, and hopefully this gets out to people, and there you go. Nice.
I don't know if you can read that or not. It says more of the same or ready for change. That's my little motto. But our government here in our hometown, it's just that, good old boy
Network
mentality. They stick together.
Yeah.
But sticking together all these years with that group that we've had up there, they've just really not made a lot of positive changes here in Harrodsburg. So they need to think outside the box.
Yep.
And bring in somebody that can bring a different perspective to it.
Yeah, and work together. If you really want the community to succeed, there's some people that are just happy with they have their position and they're like a shop vac, just milking the city's resources for their own benefits,
Yeah. They need something different, and I'm the most different one that's running.
Vote for the most different one.
Vote for me. I'm not like them.
Well, yeah, Joe, I really wish you the best with all that. I hope that it worked. Hopefully next time I talk with you after November, we got mayor elect or whatever it is, like mayor select, like chief, when you made sure you're on the board.
Yep. Let a chief run the town.
Yeah, exactly. And then before I get ready and wrap up and let you go, I want to ask you a couple of questions I normally ask the guests I have on. Big music fan. Is there a particular song that you feel has been an inspiration for you in life that's a go-to when you need an extra pick-me-up?
Well, I can't pinpoint any particular song, but if I listen to some Rob Zombie, I start getting pretty motivated and ready to jog down the street. I get that's some pretty upbeat music.
That'd be great.
Believe it or not.
Yeah.
That was actually on my MP3 player that I had when I was still in the Navy. I listened to a lot of Rob Zombie and that type of music. Get me running a little faster. I felt like it was anyway. Just motivated me.
Well, that's great, Rob. If you're listening, at her victory party, we want a Rob Zombie concert.
Oh my gosh, That would be amazing. That would be amazing.
And then who are 3 people who've inspired you or you can credit for making you the person you are today?
Um, Other than just my family, the people in my family, that's what keeps me going. My husband, my kids, they're all wonderful people, and they keep me going.
Nice. And then any message that you have for our brothers and sisters currently serving overseas?
Just do it well. Make a difference.
Amen. Well, Joe, thank you so much for your time. It was good to, I know we had talked about this even before the reunion. It was great seeing you, meeting your husband, and reconnecting with everybody from our time at AJ.
Yeah.
And, I wish you the best and best of luck and show those good old boys how things are done there in Harrodsburg.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
All right. Thank you so much. And go enjoy your husband's birthday now.
Oh yeah. Today's my husband's birthday. Thank
Happy
you.
birthday.
And I'll tell him that you said happy birthday. Thank you for doing it. All right. You have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.